Hey everybody, welcome back. Tower of God, episode 9, was a great depiction of the different sort of ideals and philosophies that some of these characters have and how they really contrast one another. And it's pretty interesting in a show with these sort of physical fights. We also have like the battle of belief systems and stuff like that, and how you should go about climbing the tower and stuff like that. How you should go about being motivated and things like that. So I like this episode a lot. We got to see a lot of the background of my favorite character, Endorsi. Still my favorite character so far, even after this episode, although she is somewhat cold in this one. She tells this story, as she puts it, a story of an orphan girl who is chosen by who's basically brought in. A bunch of different girls are brought in by the lowest of the princesses of Zahad families. It seems like to they bring like a whole bunch of them in, and they feed like the seemingly like the strongest ones the best food, and then the lower tier ones just bread. And she was eating bread just for a while, and she wondered for a long time what it would be like to actually consume the good food. And she finally one day saw that what she had to do, what she envisioned that she needed to do, and seemingly killed all of the other girls, and sort of rose to power that way. It is interesting to hear that she is from the like lowest sector. I don't know how much that really plays in the sort of hierarchy of the princesses. I was wondering if they were like equal in power. I mean, I guess obviously like it's a shonen show, so they're not going to be. But it's interesting that she clearly says like they're like the, I forget her exact wording, but they're like the lower ones. Um, so basically, we learned that for a long time, ever since Endorsi was a very young girl, she has sort of established this mentality that it's a dog eat dog world, literally. So it's this kind of goes to show why it's so comfortable for her to be in this ascension of the tower, where at times it's pretty dog eat dog. Like it seemed like for a while that things were getting kind of cuddly and cozy. And she sort of snaps Bam right back into reality and says, "No, this is not how things are. I'm gonna sit here and basically betray my own team." She gets all the fishermen together on her team and starts, knocking them out, beating them up, and stuff like that. We find out that one other guy, I don't remember his name, I'm sorry, but he had an ignition weapon, which is a phrase that they've thrown around a couple times in the series. I think I might be wrong that the month weapons, the month swords, the Black March, the Green April, I think that those are ignition type weapons that have like a higher like base power. Like they're not just a sword. Um, it appears that that's what this sword that lights up green and emits some kind of like power wave is kind of deal. I don't think that this is one of the princess weapons because it was wielded by what I was assuming was a dude who got his ass kicked pretty easily. So, and now Endorsi takes it. So now she's evidently a collector of strong weapons like that. But it was interesting to hear her sort of backstory. My biggest sort of takeaway from this episode was like the differing mentalities, as I mentioned, because you have somebody like Bam, and Bam was another really good highlight in this episode. How you have somebody who is just very innocent and good natured, because there's really nothing to him. He doesn't really have memories or anything like that. He is basically the living embodiment of a clean slate. And I like him a lot. He's really nice. He does kind of seem like Mr. Perfect at times. He is naturally sort of good at this whole wave controller thing for some reason, which I'm sure we'll probably get into. It's odd how fast he seems to pick up on things, as Ho had mentioned in this episode. It's another differing mentality that we'll get into in a moment. But Endorsi versus Bam, and even sort of you could probably lump like Rachel into this, is you have people that in Rachel and Endorsi that are willing to, it seems like, sacrifice certain things in order to get what they want. They believe that, you don't always have to do what's right if the end result is what's desired. Whereas Bam sort of disagrees with this. He seems that he sees a lot of value in like the outstretched hand, in sort of helping people to be on like an equal playing field, to not necessarily push people down, but to help them up. In fact, he mentions to Endorsi after hearing her story about how her upbringing and stuff like that, as she's beating up the other fishermen, basically saying that, like, well, don't you remember what it was like to be low on the totem pole? Like, shouldn't we be trying to help one another instead of beat one another? Like, isn't that he I think Bam believes that that is sort of the true test of this tower, or it's how he thinks that it should be, which is pretty nice and genuine of him. But in Dorsey's defense, probably not reality, because this seems like a very cold, harsh world. People are just dying in front of like the administration staff and stuff like that, and they don't really go to stop it. And it seems just there's just really different like classes of strength of people in this world, and it seems pretty evident that it's been like that for a while, and people's mentality is sort of like stuck that way. And one could argue that Bam is definitely somebody whose like ideals we probably should be following, but clearly that's not the case in like present day Tower of God, because clearly people of Endorsi's mentality seem to prosper. This world seems to reward the strong, and almost like punish the weak, pretty sadly. And like, to Bam's questioning about, well, don't you remember what you used to be? She has this cool line where she says like, I forgot what the taste of stale bread is like. Or I no longer remember it, or something like that. I thought that was a really freaking cool line. I don't know. I'm an Endorsi simp, I guess. But I like Bam too. I think personally, I think like Bam's way of thinking is more ideal, is how things should be, but it's like that versus like the reality of the situation. And Bam kind of doesn't really live in the reality of the situation all the time, because he's very alien in this world and in this environment. Clearly that's also portrayed by our man Ho, who has some tragedy in this episode. Seemingly we have lost Ho. Ho axes himself here, and basically he had tricked Michelle, or Rachel, it's Rachel, let's be honest here, into having a conversation with him about Bam. He goes to hold a knife up to her throat and stuff like that, and basically threatens her. And he's really frustrated about how he has this huge inferiority complex between him and Bam, being both wave controllers, and Bam seemingly picking up on all the skills with ease, whereas we don't know if Ho has like practiced these skills for like a while. And that would make sense, right? If he's practiced these skills for like any amount of time, really, because Bam literally hasn't done them really much at all until now, and he's picking up on them like faster than everybody else. So I can sort of see how Ho would be envious, and we've talked about his backstory a little bit, how his race of people, or whatever, these people with like these horns, or seemingly like hunted or killed in some sort of like genocide or something like that. Something happened to his people, and they're like, if not all dead, almost all dead besides him. And he was, as the remaining one, with the one with wave controller ability, was sort of chosen to climb this tower, or chose to climb the tower, or whatever. And he sees this as sort of like his clan reclamation, I guess, or his like personal reclamation. So things have to go well for him, because if they don't, he says this, he literally has nothing else. Like he has to kind of go into this with everything, and I think that he thinks that he is, and things aren't really going well. And I think we've all sort of been there, where you think you're putting a lot of effort into something and it's not necessarily going well, and you kind of have to sort of recalibrate how you're going to do it. Ho can't seem to handle this pressure, and on top of that, he did get that note about like climbing the tower, and then we really didn't know everything that was in that note. I presume it's from, like, at first I was sort of thinking maybe it was from Rachel, but it doesn't seem like that note was from Rachel. It seems more like it was from that redheaded eye patch girl. I don't remember if they said her name. Redhead eye patch girl, who's also a wave controller. Does it make sense? Because she's also a wave controller, because I believe she was in the same class as Bam and Ho. She has had interactions with Bam previously, and can obviously see that Bam is pretty strong. Bam is seemingly like this sort of benevolent force that the other wave controllers are seeing and probably want out of the way, because, you know, at the end of the day, this is a competition, right? And we're not necessarily here to make friends. That's what a lot of these people seem to treat this like, and that's what Ho actually says in here. Like, you know, I signed that friendship paper, but that was really like nothing. This is all like BS. That's all that matters, is trying to get stronger, trying to climb this tower, and no matter what I do, you're seemingly stronger than me for some reason, and it's super, super frustrating. And so there's a lot of betrayal going on with Team B here. It's betrayal all over the place. We get some cool action between the I can't remember the sword guy's name. Hots, I think his name is Hots, and Quant, the instructor guy. Sort of holds his own against them for like a little bit, but then, you know, and Quant is getting like very like frustrated with all of this betrayal going on. So when he sees what's going on with Ho, he sort of like goes into it, and you have Bam, who Bam as a wave controller. Wave controller seems like the most like interesting of these sort of classes that we have in this show, because it seems like you could do a whole bunch of different stuff. Quant basically shows Bam this ability. He does this ability to him where it kind of like he shoves like Shinsu energy like into him, and it seems like it paralyzes him for a moment, or his body just like can't handle it or something like that. And he says something along the lines of like, if you could do this, you could stop the people that are hurting your friends and stuff like that. And you know, kind of like jokingly, because it's definitely not expected that somebody of Bam's caliber is able to do this technique. Lo and behold, he's able to do it on Ho, and basically and essentially save Rachel, or Michelle, whatever, Rachel. And then so with that, Ho gets super frustrated and axes himself, kills himself. Says it's super frustrating. He has a flashback to the like death of a lot of his friends and family and stuff like that, and decides that he sort of evidently can't handle this anymore, and kills himself. And that was pretty sad. I thought Ho was sort of like an interesting character. I was kind of wanting to see where he went as a character. I wanted to see him grow. I like his character design. I think he was genuine. He was like at least like fake nice at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, he kills himself here. There's actually like a little like interaction between him and Serena. Serena sees his dead body and says like, you could have been a good man. We're all sort of like dealing with things. We've all clearly we're of different different strength levels here, but it doesn't mean that you can't keep working. Like, you can't keep like striving to be better. Like, you should have just kept striving to be better. Like Serena notices that like she's never fought like Bam and like Quant, and she's never like thought like Kun and these people like that. She's never strategized like that. She's never been in these sort of situations, and it's sort of how you handle these new situations and what you learn from those situations that make you a better person from your experiences. So that's what I got from that like little conversation. We still got stuff going on with Rachel Bam, obviously, we get these cool kind of like tender moment where she's like, "Why did you follow me here?" Touches his face and whatnot. As you know, I'm less and less a fan of Rachel as the series progresses. I kind of liked her in episode 1, where she just seemed like this majestic girl to chase. And everybody that I know keeps telling me that I shouldn't trust Rachel, and it seems like I shouldn't. I thought she was behind the note in some weird offhand way. She's seemingly connected to that big dude who was eating candy bars with Rock, because that guy, as soon as Rachel gets hurt by Ho, he like teleports somewhere or something. I don't know. He's like gone. Rack's looking for his candy bar buddy. That was pretty funny. I don't know if that guy is like a creation of Rachel or something like that. Rachel, I feel like, is up to some shady stuff. I don't know. And I kind of don't like how she treats our man Bam. Because Bam's just a nice boy. You know, he's annoyingly naive for sure. But he's, I still like him. I think that he is the ideal person in a not ideal world, sort of. Last thing that I really want to take away was this smile from Anak, or Knock, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. We need to protect this smile, please. This is the best smile in all of Tower of God so far. Look at this. She gets a little like ponytail thing. I love Anak. She's no Endorsi, okay? But look at that smile, man. That just warmed up my heart right there. So what did you guys think of Tower of God episode 9? Again, I'm anime only, so please respect that. Please try to avoid spoilers down below. Who are your favorite and least favorite characters thus far? How do you feel about the Ho situation, and how do you feel about Bam's mentality versus Endorsi's mentality, and how that's going to play out in the future? Yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this episode. If you like what I'm doing here, please hit that subscribe button down below. There's also a Patreon link that'll be down below in the description. Please consider joining that if you want. And thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. My name is Miasma, and I'll see you next time.